I'm Tim, welcome to Watch One, and thanks for logging on. Today we're looking at a modern reference that really embodies all of the best of Vacheron Constantin of Geneva. Fit, finish, style, and elegance. This is the Vacheron Constantin Day-Date Retrograde reference 47245, 37 millimeters in 18 karat rose gold. This was a circa Y2K debut from Vacheron in the Richemont era after being purchased by the Richemont luxury umbrella firm. Flush with resources and with access to the top of the line in luxury watchmaking engineering, Vacheron initiated what might be considered its most distinctive modern engineering tradition, the use of the retrograde calendar on its dress watches. Now, on the wrist, you can see that 37 millimeters plays beautifully, the perfect size for men's formal reference. If you were following the trade shows this year, SIHH in January, Baselworld from the end of March to the beginning of April, you saw that men's dress watches are making a return to the 37 to 40 millimeter proportions that are more traditional, discreet, better suited to this type and character of watch. Now, the reference 47245 that I have here was succeeded by the larger 42.5 millimeter reference 86020 bi-retrograde in 2007, but I feel that 37 is just perfect for this watch. Really better suited to its character, better suited to its presence, and its presence is tremendous. While it is a 37 millimeter watch, you can see on my wrist 6 1/3 inches in circumference, 16 centimeters. It has tremendous stance. Rose gold is more versatile than yellow gold or cold platinum or white gold because it's a tone that's complementary to just about all skin tones. Now you can see on my wrist this watch has a gorgeous combination of polished facets and character lines that really gives it a lot more personality, the sense of a lot more size and mass and broad-shouldered presence than you would get if it were simply polished and spare. Let me bring out some of those character lines and bring them to attention. You can see the bezel is stepped above the flared flanks of the case, and the flanks of the case, as you can see in this profile shot, are remarkably rounded, just to give the watch that much more of a barrel-chested appearance. It's quite burly, really, in its volumetric presentation. The watch flares out and over the wrist. You can see from these short, curved lugs, it really envelops the skin, envelops the wrist, fits beautifully, but with those fluted lugs, it's also got an impression of just a little bit more visual mass than you would expect of a watch in the mid 30 millimeters range. At 37, it wears as a big 37 visually, looks more comparable to a 40 millimeter dress reference, and that's before you even get to the dial. Now, the dial is a great combination of innovation and classical cues. Starting at the outer circumference, you can see there's a railroad. That's a good angle for it. A railroad or sector minute track. So 60 minutes with a railroad sector and a gorgeous long baton-style minute hand to trace the minutes, along with a combination of dot and Roman applied red gold hour indices. Quite traditional, and that's before we even mention the Clous de Paris crosshatched diamond pattern guilloche, very subtle on the slightly off-white, slightly silvered dial. But the signature complication running from flank to flank across the top of the dial is that retrograde date. Traverses basically from the 1 at roughly, you can see it at 9:30 on this dial, to just past 2:45 on the opposite flank. That hand tracks the progression of the date and then jumps back instantaneously at the end of the month. Likewise, there is a day complication down at 6 o'clock, so with automatic winding, a versatile style, and a day-date complication, this could be that one watch, that only watch, that soulmate, and it is a beautiful one. This is about I think as good as it gets in terms of men's formal watches. Unless you want a much smaller watch or a much bigger watch, you really can't do much better in terms of proportion and in terms of convenient features than an automatic winding day-date with a fascinating retrograde complication and beautiful character lines on a gorgeous 18 karat red gold case. Now, I want to mention that this watch is something of a best of the best combination. You get Vacheron Constantin style, fit, and finish, and haute de gamme tradition with Jaeger-LeCoultre watchmaking prowess. Now, JLC has a long history of being the watchmaker's watchmaker. They've built watches for everyone from Cartier, once the exclusive supplier of movements to Cartier, to Vacheron Constantin, quite obviously, but also Patek Philippe and Audemars Piguet. And some of those houses continue to use JLC movements for their combination of quality finish and high horology engineering. And this Vacheron Constantin automatic bidirectional winding, VC calls it the 1126 caliber with an R31 retrograde movement. It's based on the JLC 889. The 889 is something like the workhorse to kings. It's featured in great watches from AP, from Vacheron Constantin, from Cartier in the modern era, and it's something of a go-to when you need a thin and finely finished, highly accurate automatic movement. And it is all of those things, but in this Vacheron, it's finished even to a higher standard than you would see in a Jaeger-LeCoultre watch. The anglage is just that much brighter upon close examination. The detailing of the screws, of the countersinks for the jewels in the screws, is just that much more carefully finished. The richness of the cobalt blued screws, the quality of the Côte de Genève across the bridges and the rotor, and the perlage on the base plate. This is Vacheron's standard of finishing and JLC's standard of engineering. An outstanding combination, as good as it gets. This Vacheron Constantin Day-Date Retrograde, reference 47245, 37 millimeters in rose gold, is the perfect dress watch. Beautiful, useful, a modern classic, and in as much as men's dress references are returning to these proportions and this size, if you want to go back to the future, this Vacheron Constantin Day-Date Retrograde 47245 just may be the watch you want.